Welcome to the Fascia-Informed Therapist, the essential podcast for occupational therapy professionals looking to deepen their understanding of fascia's pivotal role in therapy and health. I'm your host, Amy Mayer, an experienced occupational therapist, practice owner, and dedicated educator. Here we'll dive into the fascinating world of fascia, exploring its significance in the human body and its critical influence on occupational therapy practice. Each episode will bring you cutting-edge insights, expert interviews, and practical strategies to help you confidently integrate the science of fascia into your therapeutic approach. Whether you're a seasoned practitioner or just starting out, our goal is to equip you with high-quality, evidence-based, and fascia-informed continuing education opportunities that will enhance your skills and benefit your clients. So join us as we unravel the complexities of fascia and transform the way you practice occupational therapy. All health and wellness practitioners are welcome. Let's learn, grow, and evolve together. Hi, this is Amy, and this is another edition of the Fascia-Informed Therapist. And this edition is kind of going to be just a little mishmash. I was trying to decide what I wanted to talk about today, and I thought, I should talk about mental health and fascia, because I was having some frustrations about something that was going on in a discussion I had, and then I thought, that's I wanted to do a deep dive on that some other time, and then I was like, I should talk about breast cancer, because it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Or then I just bought this new book on pain neuroscience, and I can't find a darn thing about fascia in it. And it's really not. I think it's copyright 2018. And I'm like, I don't want to talk about any of that right now. What I wanted to talk about is what a freaking great week I had this last week. I had 2 new clients on my schedule last week. I really don't take new clients anymore, but one of them was a therapist who came to one of my all-day CE workshops and had something going on and wanted to learn more about how I do my assessment process. And I'm just like, well, then come in, be a client, let me assess you. Let's work together and let's see if we can figure out your issue a little bit. And, if anything, if you do end up having some kind of procedure, then having a little myofascial work certainly is going to help. It's often very helpful before surgeries or procedures. So anyway, we found a time for her to come in last week, and it was tough to get our schedules meshed up, but we did it, and we had a great time. I don't want to identify anything about her, but she's in the health professions world, and had a problem with one of her lower body joints, and has been going on for a while. And what was really cool is she was able to learn some new things about her body, and we went through a lot about posture and found some things that were likely contributing to her problem. And she had told me that she had just gone in fairly recently to get it imaged and didn't find anything, but the doc wanted to use some steroids, and she didn't like that idea because he couldn't really give her a really good reason why. Anyway, so we also talked a lot about habits and what are her habits in terms of that might be contributing to the problem beyond postural habits. When I say habits, I mean, how does she drive? How does she cross her legs? How does she tend to stand? And she said she does tend to kind of dump into one side and then sort of let the hips fall forward. Tends to be her habits, and could feel and make that connection in terms of how that could potentially be feeding into her problem. The other thing we talked about was stress and she was really open to having that discussion and how stress might be contributing to tension in her body that could be feeding into it as well. Anyway, she also wanted to learn a little bit more about how I integrate cupping into my practice. And so we had all those conversations, and then I did a little work on her lower body and with the myofascial technique, and really kind of worked toward the problem to take a little tension off that space. And then I showed her how I do the cupping and how I don't just find a pattern and go with the pattern. I think a lot of acupuncturists, massage therapists sort of have, at least in the books that I have read on cupping, are like, put them here, follow this pattern. And I don't do it that way at all. It's more about finding exactly where the spots of pull are on somebody, and that tends to really get at that individual's problem. And then we layer in movement with the cups on. It's functional movement that the person might actually use their body in order to put different kinds of pull into that cup, that restriction under the cup. And man, does it work really well. And yes, I hope to put together a little course or some videos on that so I can share with people how I approach it and why. So anyway, the cool thing is the next day, I'm choking I'm choking up just thinking about it. But she wrote me the most beautiful email about how lovely I was, and how I think she used the word treasure, and it was so sweet. And even the best part is she said her spot that she came to get worked on was feeling better than it had in a very long time. And she felt empowered. There's things that she can do to continue that process. So that was just really cool. It just gave me lots and lots of warm fuzzies. So I decided to talk about that instead of some other stuff that frustrates me. But then I had another new eval that I don't leave a lot of space on my online schedule open, because I have so many people that schedule with me. But somehow this person found the right amount of space in order to wiggle in there as a new client. And I was so glad that she did, because it was so fun going back through the new client process. And Caitlin's been doing most of those, so I was like, oh, am I gonna remember how to do this? Well, heck yeah. So it was interesting with this particular person, also a lower body issue. I won't say specifically where, or what. But the cool part of what we found out, or how we problem solved, it was way more my OT skills than it was the myofascial skills that ended up really figuring out what was going on with her. Because her issue in her lower body, she was having some consistent pain that she wasn't able to figure out what was going on. She'd been to different practitioners and wasn't really making a lot of progress. And we went through the posture assessment as well, and seemed to be able to give her some things. Well, she was able to see the connection between what her habits were in her posture to the pain that she was experiencing. And then we got to talking about, well, what were her habits of daily life, and what did she notice when this pain would kick up? And it was definitely after driving, and she has a life where she has to drive a lot. And then we also figured out when she drives one vehicle, it's not so bad, and the other vehicle, it really flares her up. So we were able to talk about a little driving ergonomics and postural stuff, and that made total sense to her. And then I was asking her to just go through your day, because she couldn't really figure out other things that might be feeding into her experience of pain. And then I was like, okay, well, just go through your day the next couple days, and hopefully I'm in your head. And when you're moving certain ways, you'll be like, oh, there it is. This is my habit. And then as we're talking and we're moving on to other things, then she stops and she goes, oh, I have she has an adult child with a disability, and that her daughter cannot use one side of her body. So she's always helping her on one particular side. And when she was sort of pantomiming what she's doing when she's helping her walk, and she reached out her hand, and as she did that, she totally put all her weight into one side of her body. And I'm like, did you see what you just did? And she did it again. She's like, oh. So she's like, oh, I'm putting a lot of weight on that side of my body, which was probably feeding into her experience of pain. And then we got into, okay, what about assisting her with other things like transfers and getting in and out? And she's like, oh, cars. And I'm like, okay, well, I want you to notice, are you putting one foot more forward or behind you, or how you're positioning yourself? And then when you do those movements, do you experience a little tweak in that particular area? And it totally hit home with her. And it was totally that problem solving in her habits of daily living, her habits of movement that were really solving the problem, because she didn't have an injury. Now, we did also look at a scar she had on her abdomen, and that also fed into what was going on too. So layering all this stuff with tension in her body, lots of stress in her life, tension in her body, super old scar, habits of helping and moving, habits of driving, other areas of sitting came up as well. Anyway, but it was super cool to make those connections with her in a way that really no other profession does it the way that we do. And of course, the warm fuzzies continued, because I got another email from her the next day saying, wow, I can't believe how much better I feel. I haven't felt like this in a very long time. So, and again, empowered to continue to be aware of what she's doing that's feeding into this experience of pain. So very, very cool. And then that same day, I got a voicemail from another woman saying, hey, I'd like to get in and see you because 3 times this week, 3 different people have said, oh, you should go see Amy Mayer. And I called this lady up, and she told me who the 3 different people were, and one of them was one of the new evals that came in this week, and they just happened to run into her out in a public area. But anyway, 3 different people, 1 week. She's like, we have to, I knew that universe was saying I need to call her. So there was just no way I could get them on my schedule, but they were agreeable to getting on Caitlin's schedule. And because I told them, hey, this kid, she's not a kid, she's a young woman. I said, this young woman she is smarter than I am by a mile. So she's already surpassing me in a lot of things. So please get on her schedule. And if you think you still want my opinion after that, then you're welcome to hop on a regular treatment session on my schedule if you see something open. But I'm quite sure you'll be very happy with your experience. So that was also cool. That, of course, gave me all the warm fuzzies too. And again, I know the 2 other people that mentioned, and I know they're not just saying, oh, you have to go get myofascial release, because that's just a small part of what we're doing. We're helping people understand where pain that has really no known cause, supposedly, figuring out where it's coming from and why. But I always tell people, like when I was telling this lady that, oh, she's dumping into that leg when she's assisting her adult child, I'm like, do I know that that's exactly where it's coming from? Of course I don't. But based on everything that we talked about with how the fascial system supports you and creates additional support and density where you use your body most, doesn't it make sense? And it totally makes sense to people. Totally makes sense. Okay, so the warm fuzzies continue. Yesterday, on Saturday, we did our workshop, Releasing Stuck Emotions from the Myofascial System. I do that with my friend and colleague, Lisa Basili, which I will put her information on the notes for this. But she and I have known each other for a long time, and she's an integrative psychotherapist. And she and I do this workshop together. So this workshop is basically a version of the myofascial self-treatment workshop. And we layer with the use of the balls to do the self-treatment some very specific guided imagery that Lisa does to help identify what are their emotions that are accompanying the sensation of pain that our attendees have in their body. So my job is to teach them a little bit about myofascial self-treatment. I teach them diaphragmatic breathing, explain why those things are important, a little bit about the fascial system, and then get them set up in different releases. What we do first when people come in, I draw some pictures of a person. I'm not good at drawing, but it's sort of a representation of a person, front side, back side, and then we make little marks where everybody in the class has something going on in their body. And then we try to structure the flow of the class around that, starting from the lower body, working our way up. And what we're trying to do is basically hit all the chakra levels. And if you don't know what chakras are, you can Google that. But what's important is in each section of the body, there's some beliefs out there that we hold our emotions in different parts of our body, or certain pains are often associated with different kinds of emotions or stress issues, and this is things like the body keeps the score, and Dr. John Sarno talks about this as well, that we often will express stress and tension or mental health issues, emotional issues as physical issues in our body because it's more acceptable. It's not acceptable to walk around and say, oh, I'm sad, or oh, I'm having a really hard mental health day. It's becoming better. It's becoming more accepted. But most people, especially people more in my age group, don't feel comfortable talking about their emotions. And so, according to Dr. John Sarno, we will express our emotions as physical pain because it's very acceptable for somebody to say, oh man, my back's killing me today, or plantar fasciitis again. It's more acceptable. So it kind of makes sense. And The Body Keeps the Score has become a very popular book. So we talk about that. We don't really talk about it in the framework of the chakras because that's a little more out there, and a lot of the people that come to this workshop are people that are from my side of the street, I call it, that are more physically based in their body, and that's their experience of pain. And then on Lisa's side of the street, people come and they're more used to talking about their emotions and their stresses. But both sides of the street don't see the connection to the other side. And what we're trying to do is help both the body-based people and the emotion-based people see the integration and make those connections. So anyway, I help get people settled into using the balls in a part of their body, let's just say the calf. and feeling that experience of the ball pushing gently into the body, feeling those physical sensations of pain. And of course, yes, we try to keep it to a very gentle, therapeutic pain, not pain that makes you want to hold your breath or tighten up or anything like that. So, and then once they start to feel that and they settle into their breathing, then Lisa guides them through, okay, you're feeling that pain. And can you label that pain? What does the physical sensation feel like? And then do you feel any emotions around it? And those emotions that come up can be anything from something that happened in the past, because sometimes those things contribute to the physical pain, through things like body tension, etc. But sometimes it's emotions that came after the pain. I'm angry about this. This is frustrating me. Why did this happen? I don't deserve this. If this doesn't go away, I'm not going to be able to take care of my kids, keep staying at work, or, what have you. So there's emotions can come first or they can come after. So she guides them through thinking about those things, exploring those things internally, and then through a process, an imagery process of, can you let that go? And it might be through, casting it into a stream or putting it in a balloon and let it flying away. And she's way more creative than what I just provided there. But it's really interesting. And sometimes people do get teary. And what's interesting too is we've had people that came to this expecting one experience of, I know what all my pain is connected to, and this person or that experience. And then something totally different comes up for them. And it's just such a fascinating workshop. And sometimes people get a little teary. There might be a little, but we've never had any, kind of major outburst kind of thing. But hey, you've got two very experienced people there if it happens. So, but yesterday was just so cool. We had a kind of a small workshop. We had 6 attendees there, plus the 2 of us, and such great discussion too, because after each release that we do, then we have a few minutes just to sort of process that. What did people experience? Do they have any questions about it? And just some really great questions about some things they were feeling physically, some things that came up for them emotionally, memories that came up, and how can I continue this, and what do I do next? And just it was just really fun. And people often walk away from that going, wow, this is not exactly what I expected, but wow, did I have a really cool experience. So I love teaching the workshops. Caitlin's teaching a lot of our level 1 workshops, and we kind of share the level 2s now, and we call this one our level 3, but it's processing stuck emotions. Anyway, so some really cool things. And then the other thing that I'm just going to sort of just mention very, very briefly is I've been working with a publisher and have been offered a contract to write a book about fascia and OT. And I am freaking excited and terrified at the same time. So we're still in negotiations, but I love the framework that we've come up for this, and I think it's something that can be really helpful for practitioners and hopefully students at some point as well. But more on that as that develops. But I mean, what an amazing, wonderful week. My cup definitely overfloweth, and I'm just so grateful to be where I'm at in my process of being an occupational therapist, and having been exposed to fascia and myofascial work so early in my career, and just having this insatiable curiosity to continue to learn more about fascia and all the amazing different things it does in our body and helps and supports, and just the fact that we have such an ability to, as occupational therapy practitioners and human beings, to do something. We have so much power to make it better, to improve it, to help it be as healthy and as functional as possible in our bodies, and then what that can turn around and do for us. So anyway, thank you for listening. Gosh, last week we surpassed the 800 downloads since May, and that always continues to amaze me as well. And I am very grateful for all of you, and especially you guys who take the time to text me and say, wow, that was great, thank you. We never, ever, ever get enough warm fuzzies, right? So take the time to, doesn't have to be me, but take this time to tell somebody thank you, or tell them something good. So take care, everybody. Thank you so very much. Thank you for tuning in to the Fascia-Informed Therapist. It's been a pleasure sharing insights and strategies to help you integrate fascia science into your practice. I'm Amy Mayer, and I hope today's episode has inspired you to explore further and take your therapeutic skills to the next level. Remember, we're committed to creating and providing top-notch, evidence-based, fascia-informed continuing education that empowers you as an occupational therapy practitioner. Stay connected with us for more enriching content, and don't forget to check out our online courses to deepen your expertise. Until next time, keep expanding your knowledge, refining your skills, and confidently applying the science of fascia to your practice. Here's to advancing together in health and wellness.